I don't recall it myself right now, but it looks like maybe this press conference is getting ready to start as we speak. Let's listen in.
Update on the Metro North issues overnight relating to severe weather. We're also going to have an update on the power outages statewide. So, Commissioner Giletti.
To say that we had a very bad night is an understatement. It began late last night with trains in Coscob experiencing power when the wind started blowing and it started picking up. After that, there was a general deterioration that started at 1:15 this morning. We found out that we lost all the tracks in West Haven with trees coming down, taking out both the signal power and the electrical power that was going on. We had to turn to our partners at Amtrak, at Metro North and at TASI to turn around and get crews out there. And on top of that, we've had multiple. 36 roads are still closed in the state of Connecticut. We did get the state roads opened up, but we've got 10 gangs out there cutting down trees. The governor is going to speak to you. I also have with us Kevin Reagan from Amtrak, Rich Andreski, who's the bureau chief, and Carl Jackson, who've been working through the night with us as we've been trying to restore the power. Owe a tremendous debt to all the employees that came out to try and open up the lines. And where we are right now, you'll see that there's service that has started as of 7:45 this morning. We did have a couple of other trains that we tried to get through, but the problem was that with the main line blocked, and right now with the fact that we only have 2 of the 4 tracks between here and Bridgeport that are operating, we are going to be experiencing delays, and Amtrak is still experiencing delays. They are hoping to try and get their services restored east and west out of here after 8 o'clock this morning. At this point here, I'd like to turn it over to the governor, and we'll be available for comment.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, that was a severe storm last night. Hit us pretty hard, gusts up to 80 miles an hour, resulting in close to 100,000 people without power. You can get an update on where you stand there. Go to the Eversource United Illuminating websites. They have hundreds of people out there, been out there all night long, doing everything we can to get the trees that fell on the power lines and lift it off and get the power up and operating again. As Commissioner Giletti said, it also hit our rail service. There was a big tree that came down on the line in West Haven. And incoming freight train saw the signalization was down, saw the tree, and that's what gave us the alert that we had to work on that. As Joe said, we've got 2 of the 4 tracks open now. We have service back and forth, New York, Metro North, Shoreline, Hartford. So I think we've got that going back as fast as we can. Waterbury is still down. So that will be a priority for us to get that line up and operating as fast as we can. I just got to tell you, it's extraordinary, the work that folks did. Coming in at 2 o'clock in the morning, hundreds of people on call, DOT, Amtrak. My God, you were just telling me here at Amtrak, we had a train that was coming down, stopped 700 people. Is that what?
150 people, 7 hours.
150 people, 7 hours. Fortunately, the service was pretty good. They were able to get something to eat and take a rest. You know, this is Friday. This is a big day for Amtrak, a big day for travel. We got trains going in each direction now with partial service. I know my phone lights up every time DOT is trimming those trees along the highways, every time Eversource is cutting back on trees along the power wires. At least I think you now understand why they do it and why it's important to prevent issues like this going forward. And again, I just want to really thank the folks who showed up at 2 o'clock in the morning and have worked nonstop over the last 7 hours, doing everything they can to get the service up and operating. Go to those websites. You'll get an update in real time. And with that, Joe can answer any questions you got.
Do you think you can prevent this in the future? Are you planning to do additional tree trimming or like that?
The question is, do we think we can prevent this in the future? And one of the problems is that balance, okay, in terms of the governor mentioned all the trees, and every time we take down a tree, there's always an issue over taking down the trees. You've also heard in all the reports today about the number of trees that have been hit with the invasive species that are dead, and it's hurting all the towns. But yes, one of the things we have to concentrate on is the fact that you can't have things like this that are shutting down every transit system we have out there. It's shutting down the highways, it's shutting down the rail systems, and it truly is something that we're experiencing more and more with the increase in what I'll call climate change, with the type of storms we're getting. You know, when you start seeing this happen, it's almost like you start to predict that when you start getting it on the West End, you're watching how those weather patterns are traveling. So we're married to the news stations. And you know, the other things I didn't mention, we still have 13 bus routes that are impacted in the Hartford area. There's 2 bus routes that are impacted in the New Haven area. So please advise people to go to CT Transit, go to the Metro North, the Shoreline East, and the Hartford websites. We will keep updating them with all the services as they're going through. Any other questions? The Waterbury line went down last night for a couple of reasons. One of the things that does happen is we also have to protect, if we can't run service when you come down the Waterbury line, we grab those locomotives in case we have to go and rescue trains. But we're trying to get the Waterbury service restored, and the New Canaan is being restored, but the New Canaan was the same problem, where we had trees that got into the line and it took out those services as well. So we got hit with every line, not only the Shoreline, the Hartford line, and the Metro North line, but Amtrak got hit as well, and Amtrak is still not run a train headed towards Boston because of all the debris that's out there and the trees that are down.
More storms, more unpredictable storms, stronger storms going forward. Is there anything else that can be done to harden infrastructure, improving infrastructure?
From the standpoint, you know, it's interesting that you say that. We've had a governor that, when he first talked to me, talked about the fact that we have to make the investment in the infrastructure. Yes, there are things that have to be done. We do have to strengthen this infrastructure. We have to strengthen the infrastructure on both the rail side and on the highway side, and that's one of the things we're working very hard with the legislature to go and get through. I don't know if you want to make a comment on that.
You know what they do in Britain? They bury the power wires. It's also beautiful and a lot less maintenance, and it protects you from issues like this. And it's also very expensive to do it now.
Following the storm back in October, Eversource ended up hiring more people because it just simply took too long to get power back up and running. Do you think that this was an appropriate amount of time? Is there any expectation to maybe hire more people to get it up faster?
Right now, we're monitoring it very closely. I think they've really responded fast. They have their own folks. They also have contractors. They have folks on the ground. But I'm going to watch, because right now we're just 7 hours into this, and want to do everything we can to get the other 85,000 people up as soon as we can in terms of power.
Was this a particular?
The line that's running, the Amtrak line from here to Manhattan, is back up and running now?
Let me clarify, there's 2 lines that go, okay? Both Amtrak and Metro North run between here and New Rochelle, all right? So all of them were shut down, all right? When it reopened up, right now Amtrak is getting to run their trains towards New York. They haven't been able to get them running towards Boston. They are hoping to get, matter of fact, it should have just started, where they're getting it going back to Boston right now. But the Amtrak line from New Rochelle into Penn Station was open. The problem was, as they were trying to send trains here, once you got past Stamford, headed towards Bridgeport, you knew you were shut down. The tree was all the way across all 4 tracks in West Haven, and that's what shut them down.
That's a pretty amazing sign up there, though, isn't it? 7 hours later, everything on time. One Excella to Boston canceled, and we think that's about to go, right?
Yes.
What's preventing it from getting from here back to Boston?
Why don't you take that?
Go ahead. We have a lot of trees down, and we also had a sailboat mast into the wire out and around Mystic. So that's all removed. You know, our safety is our #1 priority here. Don't want anybody getting hurt.
And can I ask you as well, I spoke to a lot of the Amtrak people just frustrated and how long it took when they couldn't really get the answers from anyone at the desk here. What would you like to say to all those passengers?
We gave them as much information as we had. We received the information, we made announcements in here. It was frustrating for a lot of people. It was.
And let me clarify on that. Starting at 1:15 this morning, when I got the first call, the first thing that has to happen is you have to get out there and you got to see what the damage is, okay, before you can start letting the trains go through. So there's an assessment period that has to take place. We were fortunate in that we also had a freight train going through at the time. You heard the governor mention that the freight train saw that there was a tree, because up until that point, even though your power will tell you that the power is out at the power grid, the signal will tell you it's out at the signal grid, you still need the information as to where it's actually at. And even after we were putting it back in, you're finding that other areas have gone out at the same time. So I want to say from the standpoint that, yes, it's very frustrating, but everything we were getting for information we were putting out there, but it's a piecemeal as you're putting it back in. So again, you know, some of the things we're going to be thinking about in the future, can we use drones to try and help with these things? These are all things that we've been talking with the governor's office on other ways that we can possibly alleviate that. And I also want to say on behalf of the Eversource, when you're talking about that, there were over 90,000 outages last night, okay? So, you know, when you look at it from the standpoint of how severe this was, a storm that came blowing in and ends up, actually it was closer to 100,000 when you add the UI in with the Eversource. And, you know, I found myself, even at last night when the 115 call was coming in, at the same time the railroads were going down, so were our highway systems with all the trees that were impacting it.
Actually, just got a briefing. We're down to 65,000 now without power. So we're making progress, but it's not good enough. And we're doing everything we can in terms of resilience to be prepared for the next time we have storms with 60, 70 mile an hour gusts. Hey, thank you, everybody. Appreciate you being here.
Yeah, we're just looking at the numbers ourselves as the governor was talking. 5,000 United illuminating customers without, 69,000 on the Eversource side, so about 74,000 total, according to the websites. But that still represents a fair improvement over the past hour or two, because Eversource was as high as 85,000 just on its own, down to 69. So it looks like progress is being made.